Hello, I'm Oleg and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you a simple tip on how you can restrict certain data in your Power BI reports without applying either row level or object level security in your data model. Let's say you built and published a dashboard on sales performance of a company, and this dashboard is being used by hundreds of people, but you were recently asked by an executive to add a few more fields, like let's say employee names and costs. And this type of data is usually considered to be sensitive. So we can't simply add it to the report without applying some security restrictions. So I'm going to show you how you can easily hide certain columns or measures for some of your users while allowing others to still see everything. And before I do that, for those of you that aren't familiar with Power BI's built-in security functionality, I will quickly recap and explain how the tip that I will show you is different from what's already available. I'll share my screen now. So I have some examples where we have a fictional company, and this company has two sales regions, the East and the West. And I am in charge of the West region. And in our database, we have a fact sales table, this one, which has customer names, the sales region, and sales and profits amounts. So one thing we can do in regards to restricting access is being able to see data for our region only. And this can be achieved using row level security if you have a user table that maps Power BI IDs to sales regions. So here in example one, I would be able to see just my customers for the West region if we have a proper security table like this, for example, where these are our IDs and I'm mapped to the West region. So um, that's one way you can restrict data for your users. Another way is to restrict columns. In example two, I can see all of the regions and all of the customers, but I'm not able to see profits. And we can achieve this using object level security, which lets you hide columns or even entire tables. With object level security, it does take a little bit more work though, because you need a third party software like a tabular editor or SQL Server Management Studio to do it. And you can also combine the two methods. So in this third example here, I'm using both. I restricted the rows where the region is not West, and I also hid the profit column. So that's what Power BI can do. I won't get into too many details now on how exactly to set that up, but there's a lot of guides and YouTube videos on how to do this properly if you'd like to learn about it in more detail. I highly recommend it. But now I will show you another option where you don't have to do either row level or object level security. Here, for example, I have another report, this time with a fictional data consulting company. In this table, we can see employee names, how much revenue they bring in, and how much profit they bring in for the company. And you will notice that there is a profit column here, but it just says access denied. Now, if I go to my user access table, I have all the users that should be able to see it. So I intentionally misspelled my name, but if I correct that, now I can see profit and the profit margin because I'm on the approved list of users. So I was able to achieve this functionality using a simple DAX function. It's called user principal name, and all it does is return the text string of your account ID. So in my case right now, it returns MSI-Oleg, which is my I'm on my personal laptop, so that's my local username on Windows. But if I were to publish it to Power BI service for my Power BI Pro account, I would need to add this ID as well to the whitelist, which I did. But usually you don't have to worry about it because in most companies on a company device, it should just always be um, your email ID. So to give people access, you just add their email IDs to the list, and that should work. So now that you see what the function does, I'll show you how to implement this. So here I have my profit measure, and all I'm doing is doing an if lookup value function onto a user principal name. So I'm checking if user principal name matches one of the IDs that are in my user access table. So if it does, then I calculate revenue minus cost, which will give me profit. If it does not, I want the text to say access denied, or you can just leave it blank. So that's it. We were able to have this measure restricted to the appropriate users, and we're done. It's pretty simple, but before I wrap up, I just want to point out that this method only works for measures and not for calculated columns. And the reason for that is because a function like user principal name, it's dynamic. So it will return the current user viewing the report, but calculated columns are only evaluated once during the data refresh. So there's no specific user context. So you would just get an error if you were to apply the same code but into a column. But if all you need to do is to restrict measures, then this method essentially achieves the same goal as object level security can do for us. So why would I do this instead of object level security? Well, there's a few pros and cons to both methods. First of all, I will say object level security requires a Power BI premium license. So you can on your computer define object level security using a tool like Tabular Editor, but you wouldn't be able to publish and share the report with others unless you have a premium license. Pro license wouldn't be sufficient. So that's one. And let's say you do have a Power BI premium license, there are still very good use cases for this DEX method regardless. I think it's just much faster and easier to implement. You don't have to get into role security management at a metadata level. So let's say your company already has some complex role configurations, and adding more restrictions on top of that may not always be a good idea. Plus, you don't need any external tools to do this. I know from personal experience, oftentimes like user access tables are being maintained on spreadsheets like on SharePoint or Google Drive. So if you need to quickly add a user, don't have access to your computer at the moment, you can just always do it from your phone and it's updated. You know, you're not confined to using your device. So besides the speed and simplicity, I also like the idea of sometimes masking a value, but still showing users that the data does exist behind the scenes. Often people don't even know what type of data is available at your company, especially when they're new to the company. It's not always so simple to figure out who should have access to what, and you may not have the proper permissions always. So some users may get an access denied message, but they might have a very good business justification for seeing that data, so they can request access to it after they already saw it in your report. But they might not have known about it until they saw it masked in your mask measure in your report. So there's definitely benefits. The only thing I will say is a downside is you do need to be careful when using this method because you have to make sure that your users only have access to the published report and not the data model itself. So you'll have to do that in Power BI service because unlike object level security, we're not actually removing anything from the data model. We're just masking it in the measure. So someone can still get the raw data behind the scenes if they wanted to, unless you only give them access to the report. So that's it. I think I covered this topic in enough detail. I hope you found this tip to be helpful and you will use it in the future in some of your reports. If you did find it useful, please just continue to follow along and watching the channel. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.